Welcome back to another Google Hangout. I'm David Fucillo from Niners Nation, and once again we have James DeTore from Cat Scratch Reader. How you doing, James?
I'm good. How are you? Anticipating the game.
I
I
just,
can taste it.
for a variety of reasons, I just want this game to happen sooner
Yeah.
rather than later. Just get it over with and kind of figure out where these teams are at because it's just you get to this point in the week and you just want to end it. And it's funny. The 49ers head coach Jim Harbaugh, when if you follow him, like if you watch his press conferences week to week, there's a very much a pattern. Monday really depends on how the 49ers did on Sunday. If they did well, he's in a exuberant mood. If they didn't do so well, not so much. Wednesday, he's generally there's some banter, everything is fine. And then Friday, sometimes he'll talk a little bit, but he's definitely officially in game mode.
Yeah, Ron Rivera is a little bit different. He's kind of pretty even keel the entire time, which is why this season's been so strange for him. It's been interesting to see him having to cope as a coach with kind of not overnight success, but certainly become the flavor of the month with Riverboat Ron and him kind of being portrayed as this risky gambling type when I think it was just kind of more common sense. So press conferences for him have been kind of interesting. He's been pretty even keeled. I think some fans have been getting a little frustrated only because he's been talking up the 49ers as much as the Panthers at this point, kind of making everyone well aware that he knows that they were lucky to get away with that win in Week 10, kind of faced them at the right time. So it's interesting to see the two coaches. I think if I had to characterize both of them, it seems that both of them are confident and neither are confident, which is probably the right way to enter the weekend.
Oh yeah, I would have to agree with you on that. Both seem relatively confident, but both like to play up that. It seems like to play up that it's tough game. We don't want to do anything like that. And it's interesting. Jim Harbaugh, one of his favorite sort of things is talking about when somebody is praising you, then they're getting ready to. He doesn't necessarily say to stab you in the back, but they're definitely getting ready to pounce.
Mm-hmm.
And so he likes to make sure that he doesn't like excessive praise about his own team. He's more than willing to lay praise on other teams. So it'll be interesting. I guess the biggest storyline this week, just for either team, really has been Steve Smith. He's potentially coming back from the sprained PCL. He's been giving percentages. First it was like percentages of playing, but then it's like, well, no, I'm going to play, but it's percentage of confidence in his knee, and then this and that. What's up? What's going on with Steve Smith?
The thing with Steve Smith as a whole is there's no wasted movement, both on the field and off the field. He is a player of few words. He's never going to be the guy who has a Twitter account because that's just not how he rolls. And that kind of extends into these sort of situations. There's no wasted movement. Everything he's doing is very, very pointed and very intentional. So when he says on Monday, I'm going to be 60% to go on Sunday, then on Tuesday he says, now I'm going to be 71%. Now, I don't know what happened to give him an 11% increase in confidence from day to day. Then, he said, Thursday, now I'm feeling a little less confident. I had a setback. Now I'm at 54%. So we're kind of seeing these percentage swings, but if you ask me, I think the number to really just pay attention to is 100, and that's the percent that Steve Smith's going to play. At this point, he's not going to miss the first team's playoff run in 5 years, even if he has to go out there on one leg, even if he can't play a full game or be quite as effective. I would be stunned if he doesn't play. I think it could be a little bit of gamesmanship. Ron Rivera isn't known for kind of being obtuse on purpose to throw people off, but Steve Smith's not above trying to get inside somebody's head. We saw it this year. It worked with Aqib Talib, kind of spawning this famous catch cry of "Ice up, son." He did it with Janoris Jenkins against the Rams, where he felt he was being disrespected. He loves the mental game as much as anything else. It's one of the reasons why I think he's so misunderstood is he kind of plays up games like a bit of a prize fighter. So I think this is just a case of him playing possum a little bit before the weekend. I expect that on the Friday injury report he'll be a full participant and he'll be going. I'd be shocked if we don't see him on Sunday.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that I've always been kind of a Steve Smith fan. I mean, even when he's knocking out guys in training camp, he's still he's a character, and I prefer my football players with a little personality, which sometimes makes it interesting following Colin Kaepernick because at times he really doesn't like to talk a whole lot. But a guy like Steve Smith, I watch football to be entertained, And obviously because I really want to shorten my lifespan the way the 49ers play in the postseason. But no, it seems like he's definitely he's trying to play some games. I'm not overly concerned about that because I think the 49ers are operating under the assumption that he's going to play. Their game planning accordingly. It's going to be interesting. I mean, just on the injury front, I mentioned Carlos Rogers on Wednesday, and while Steve Smith may be playing things up, Carlos Rogers, I would be surprised if he played on Sunday. He's been dealing with this hamstring strain. He strained it in Week 17 on the last defensive series. Didn't practice last week. Didn't play Sunday. He has not practiced Wednesday or Thursday. The 49ers start their practice in about 30 minutes. They're doing an early practice so they can, kind of get used to the early start and then head out to Carolina. But if he doesn't practice today, he won't play on Sunday. I know Vic Fangio, the 49ers defensive coordinator, said that it comes down to him getting back on the practice field, and this is one instance where I don't think it's not an issue of we're going to make them think he's going to play or not going to play. I think he's already he told the media if he pulls the hamstring one more time, he's done for the season, and not that he's going to not that he's doing this to make an assumption that they're going to beat Carolina, but I think he wants to he's trying he really wants to save himself so that for one last opportunity if need be. And ideally, the 49ers beat Carolina and face, either New Orleans or Seattle. And if they played Seattle, I would think that would be a game he would play because the 49ers Panthers is a big game, but 49ers Seahawks just would be potentially a huge game in terms of just the rivalry that they've developed. And so I think for now he's hoping to buy one more week. And obviously I'd hope they last one more week, but we'll see. But I would suspect you won't see him, which means you'll see Tremaine Brock and Terrell Brown on the outside, and then when they go to the nickel, you would probably see Parrish Cox. He was brought back in last week and played against the Packers just straight off the street over Eric Wright. But again, it seems like you guys don't go to three receivers a whole lot. At least in the Week 10 matchup, you only went to it, I think, like a third of the time.
Yeah, it's really because a lot of that is Greg Olsen. I'm sure it's something you're familiar with, having a more pass catching tight end. But the thing with Olsen is he's basically a zero in the blocking game. He's out there as a tall receiver. They'll throw him out wide sometimes just because he is so tall and athletic. He's in that similar mold to Jimmy Graham. I'm not going to compare the two because Graham's a difficult player to compare anyone to. But, yeah, that's why they don't tend to go to three wide so much. They'd prefer to have a pass catcher in the backfield and use someone like D'Angelo Williams or Mike Tolbert on a short pass and go with a more traditional set. But one thing that's kind of interesting that you touched on there, talking about Carlos Rogers, and I think it's going to be something to kind of watch on Sunday, is the emotional swings in this game. And I'm not trying to suggest that the 49ers are looking past Carolina, but as kind of the more experienced playoff team entering this game, appearing in the Super Bowl in 2012, there's certainly an organization that knows what it takes to make it all the way. And if that means playing one game without Carlos Rogers, if it means he can be back for what is largely believed to be a more difficult game against Seattle, then so be it. Whereas the mood's very different in Carolina. This is kind of their first dance with Ron Rivera, obviously, Cam Newton's first time. I've never seen emotions in this area about the Panthers be more pent up and more ready and more fired up. It's kind of a young fan base. If you want to, look, some people like to jump on this idea of bandwagon fans and Johnny-come-latelys, and I understand why, because nobody wants to see, all of their emotional energy that's wasted in the early season go to somebody else. But regardless, this area is just popping right now. And for a lot of reasons, Sunday is their Super Bowl. They're treating this like a lot of the football world believes the Panthers are one and done. It's put a chip on the shoulders of the players and the fans. So it's going to be interesting to kind of see that this team who is measuring their expectations a little bit more, perhaps preparing for a long, deep playoff run, versus a team that really looks at this like that this is it for them and are going to lay it all on the line. So it's interesting in relation to Rodgers playing versus Steve Smith and also the game as a whole.
No, I completely agree with you. I think sports fans in general, there's sort of a hipsterish vibe to them where, they when you get in early and you get in before it's sort of the popular thing. And the 49ers went through this as well recently. Obviously they've got the extensive history. But you had that stretch from about 2004 to 2010 where the team just was awful. I mean, it was just horrible. And Niners Nation started right in the middle of that in late 2006 and struggled through it. And then when the team suddenly got good again, you've got people coming out of the woodwork. You've got the hot takes. You've got people that have a lot to say about the team. And so it seems like we kind of talked. I believe we talked about this on Wednesday, where the Panthers are sort of, we talked about just as a football team and how they operate as far as the run game, the defense, the quarterback. They're sort of a younger version of the 49ers, just in that the 49ers have, run a similar type of team, but they have those extra years of playoff experience. And it's sort of like that with the fans as well. Obviously, the Panthers, have a lot more, or I'm sorry, the 49ers have a more extensive history overall, but both teams have gone through that, that downturn that's now coming back up into an upswing. And so you see that. And I get why Panthers fans think 49ers fans are looking past them. I totally understand that, because it is. I mean, if the Seahawks hadn't made the playoffs, if the Seahawks weren't the 49ers' chief rival, then I don't know that we would see this issue as necessarily. But the 49ers and the Seahawks really, really, really don't like each other, and so I think fans are. I mean, there are a lot of fans that are looking past the Panthers. They view this. They view this as an easier matchup. I am not one of those, because A, the Panthers beat them already, and B, the Panthers are a good team. There's no doubting that they have a great defense. They've got a very solid run game. And Cam Newton, Colin Kaepernick are similar in the sense that they're both big guys with great measurables and all that. And there's an unpredictable element to it that anybody that thinks that this is going to be a walk in the park on either side is sorely mistaken.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and that kind of the unpredictability of Kaepernick and Newton is something that's going to be really interesting to see, because they are similar and different in a lot of ways. I think there's probably a larger discussion to have about who, I'm not sure which side of the fence you fall on, but who is the better pure passer. I tend to think that Newton's underrated in that regard, but he gets very sloppy with his mechanics sometimes. It's one of those situations that I'm waiting for it to truly click with him, because he has all the tools, and 60% of the time he does what he's supposed to mechanically in the pocket, and then the other 40% of the time he's throwing off his back foot and passes are sailing and stuff like that. But his decision making is what's really changed this year, and why he's thrown so fewer interceptions than in previous seasons, and why he's running the ball more effectively, even though he's not running it with the same amount of volume. So it's just interesting to see these two quarterbacks, because they are a complete wild card. It makes the game exciting from a lot of levels, but it's really about what version of these two passers are going to turn on.
Yeah, no, I think we could talk for hours about Cam Newton versus Colin Kaepernick, but I think between these two, kind of in reverse of what we talked about with the 49ers and Panthers, Newton's he has that extra year of starting, and he's taken that neck. He's been able to really he's gone through that downturn that he had in year two, which really, I mean, I know statistically really isn't quite a factual statement, but there was that appearance of struggles, and now he's really settled into a nice little groove. And Colin Kaepernick is still, I believe, I was looking at it, he has this will be his 28th career start, because if you go back to his first career start against the Bears last year, and there's a lot of things he's still learning, and I know Trent Dilfer is now making a living this year, calling him a one-read quarterback, and to some extent, there is some truth to that. I think Colin Kaepernick has shown that he can make that second read, but he's a guy that really a lot of times you'll see him focus in on that one player. He'll focus in on Anquan Bolden, he'll focus in on Vernon Davis, he'll focus in on Michael Crabtree, and he won't always make that second read. If the guy isn't open, he'll either wait too long, or he'll cut the scramble a lot quicker than he might otherwise do. And so I think that's something he's got to work on this offseason is really being able to progress through those reads. I think he can do it at times, but he needs to develop consistency. And I think Cam Newton has developed more consistency this year, which he's not. He's still explosive. There's no doubt about that. But he's not. I won't say he's not. When I say he's not as exciting, not in I think in the unpredictable sense. Whereas, in year one, he was just, you never knew what was going to happen. More often than not, it was something good. Sometimes it made you kind of cringe. But there was a certain unpredictability to him. And now there's predictability to him. But I don't want that sounds negative, but I don't mean it in a negative sense.
No, no. I think the thing is, and I think it speaks to the larger feeling of Panthers fans feeling a little bit disrespected and looked down on. It's a pattern that not only extends to looking at the team as a whole, but as Newton too. I mean, I've been pounding the table all year that if you factor in fumbles, which I think too often because passer ratings don't account for them, and I think probably in the future, again, one of these larger discussions, as we see more dual threat quarterbacks, we're going to have to start accounting for fumbles as a statistic that's tracked. But if you look at fumbles lost, if you put it all together, Cam Newton has been almost identical across the board with Russell Wilson this season. And then you look at the perception nationally, and it's just two completely different worlds. It is still very much Cam Newton, icon and entertainer who is selfish and mopes, and then Russell Wilson is, for lack of a better term, the golden child. He was talked about in MVP discussion, and it's just interesting to see that kind of dichotomy, and I think that's one element where Panthers fans are getting frustrated, because Newton this season, you're right, he has been more predictable, but that's why the Panthers won 12 games, because he was able to be more predictable, particularly in key moments. It's the first time we've seen him really trust the rest of his players and willing to not have to put everything on his back, and that's why they were able to win 12 games this year. And with a little bit more work, hopefully they can take that next step, and by a little more work, I mean, goodness, get him some better blocking and some better receivers, and I think you'll see this team improve exponentially.
Yeah, I mean, we don't want to turn this into too much about the Seahawks, but I don't know. It's interesting. I think Russell Wilson knows how to play the game. He knows how to play the game, the media game. And I don't think that. I'm not saying that to say he's a phony or he's this or that. I think he seems like a genuinely good guy. But there is a you can point to a million different stories in the NFL or any sport where you have one guy who knows how to play the media game and knows how to really do it well, and they get treated accordingly by the media. And on the other hand, you have other guys who aren't as interested in doing that. And Colin Kaepernick's one of those guys where when he addresses the media, it's very short answers. You can definitely tell he doesn't, he takes after his coach, in that he, at times he doesn't feel like he wants to be a part of that. And I think, criticisms will come a little more easily because, he's not quite as nice a guy, which is stupid, but that's just, it's inherent, and it's not surprising that media is going to be that way because, everybody wants to, somebody to be nice to them.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And from the perspective of Cam, I think and again, let's not take this to Seahawks, but there's just something inherent that people kind of like the underdog story, and quarterbacks that are Russell Wilson's size don't come along every day, and I think it's kind of fun to see someone like that succeed. And then you've got Cam Newton, who, quite frankly, we've never seen a quarterback his size before, not just from the height, the weight, everything combined, the athleticism. I mean, look, I've said for a while he's basically Ben Roethlisberger who can run the ball downfield. There's just never been quite a player like that. But, yeah, you're right. He's not quite as polished with the media. He speaks off the cuff a lot of the times. He makes a lot of malaprops, and I think it's endearing, but it's just the way he is. But, yeah, I think you're right. So there's definitely a chip on the shoulder of the Panthers this weekend. It's going to be very loud at Bank of America Stadium. Don't let anyone convince you otherwise. The final game against the Saints in Week 16 at home was the loudest I've ever seen that stadium, and I think that's going to definitely continue into the playoffs this weekend.
Yeah, I can only imagine again, that first playoff game in 5 years is going to be a wild one. Which I mean. Yeah, I would prefer to be at home, but there's something to be said about going into the den of the opposing team and trying to do what you can. But I guess back to the game itself. Before we kind of wrap this up, today we're having some posts about why each team will win, why each team will lose. I guess we'll kind of we'll keep it simple because people can read the post itself. But how about one reason why you think the Panthers will win and one reason why you think they will lose? Because we really want to piss off Panthers fans. Why you think they will lose?
Yeah, no. The one reason I think they're going to win is just that front seven. There's just so much pressure. They have the ability to plug in a variety of different players and really confuse their looks. They will throw Greg Hardy in as an under tackle in pass rushing situations, and he's just a mismatch nightmare for most interior linemen just because he is so big and he is so fast, and they'll kind of move some players around. On first and second down, you've got Star Lotulelei and Kawan Short, both of whom the Panthers draft and who are great run stoppers. And then you have this situation that emerges where if you manage to make it through that front four, then Luke Kuechly and Thomas Davis are waiting for you, and that's why the Panthers have just been so dangerous this season. That's going to be why they win. Those guys need to turn up. They got 6 sacks on Colin Kaepernick the last time these teams met, and there were a lot of variety of reasons why that was and why they were able to have so much success. But if they can duplicate that, then they will have a very good chance, provided that Cam Newton can keep them in the game. One way that they could definitely lose in this game is letting Vernon Davis and Michael Crabtree run wild. I know Panthers fans are sick of hearing their names at this point, but it's a factor that has to be taken into account. Crabtree obviously wasn't available in Week 10 when the teams played. The Panthers' secondary is not very good. They are very similar to the New York Giants teams that made the Super Bowl, in which you could maybe pick out one player's names from those teams that won those rings, but it was all about that front 7 getting so much pressure that it mitigated a lot of the problems in the secondary. But certainly if Crabtree is able to run wild and they can't have someone who can cover him reliably, the Panthers' linebackers outside of Thomas Davis aren't great at covering tight ends, and their safeties aren't great tacklers. So if you get in a situation where Vernon Davis is catching the ball in between the hash marks and there's not somebody there and the linebackers are out of position, I'm not confident that we have the safeties to be able to tackle those guys. So that's the area that they could lose if they just get eaten alive by those 2 players and the pressure isn't able to throw off Kaepernick. What about you? What are your 2 reasons?
Well, I mean, it annoys Panthers fans to no ends, but my reasons revolve around Michael Crabtree and Vernon Davis, and I don't think that Panthers fans fully appreciate just what Michael Crabtree has brought to the passing game since returning. Because, I mean, obviously you can look at his numbers, and, he had the big game last week, 8 receptions, I think 125 yards. But last year when Colin Kaepernick first took over as starter, he had Michael Crabtree, Vernon Davis, and Randy Moss as his top 3 receiving options. And I think he quickly developed a rapport with Michael Crabtree, which allowed Crabtree to become the 49ers' first 1,000-yard receiver since Terrell Owens, and he really looked to him frequently. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I know Michael Crabtree was huge on third down for them, converting a lot of different third downs in essential situations. And so having him back this year for this game as opposed to the first game, the big thing with Crabtree is he's not a fast guy. And even before his Achilles surgery, he was not a fast guy. He's not gonna blow past cornerbacks or safeties or anything like that and just blaze past them. Rather, he's a guy that has immaculate footwork and has great hands. You'll see him. He runs routes as well as anybody in the league, and I think these days in the NFL where you've got guys like Calvin Johnson and Brandon Marshall, you've got these huge guys that can just run blazing 40s. I don't think people fully appreciate players with excellent footwork that are able to use that to beat cornerbacks, to beat safeties, and Crabtree's been able to do that. And I think this week, part of that is because he's not a deep threat. The reason that that's a benefit is that the 49ers can really boost that short passing game, which they're going to need to do. They're going to win this game if they can develop that short passing game effectively, because that I think will help stunt the front 7 of the Panthers. That is as good a unit as there is out there. I mean, obviously, I think the 49ers front 7 is pretty good itself, but I think together those are 2 of the best units in the NFL when it comes to that. And so the 49ers are going to have to game plan to hit those short passing routes to get the ball out of Kaepernick's hands quickly and not force him to run around a lot. He's incredibly fast. I think he's a guy that can outrun most linebackers, but at the same time, Panthers are a lot more athletic than the Packers were on defense. And so kind of taking that and flipping it on the other end, as far as why they would lose, it's going to be getting pressure on Kaepernick, going to be forcing him to kind of run around and not give him time to focus in on one guy. Because, like I said earlier, he's wanting to sort of focus in on one receiver and really look for that guy to wait for that guy to get open. He doesn't seem to really, to throw guys open or anticipate, where they're going to be at the end of a route particularly well. So he'll force some things in because he's got a cannon of an arm. He's got as strong an arm as there is in the NFL. And if you get him running around and not able to focus on his receivers, but rather run around trying to focus on, getting away from defenders, he can struggle. And I think I think he's got the legs to outrun some of these guys, but I really don't want to see him get put in that position. And especially in a situation where, like you said, it's going to be loud. 49ers have had some issues with the play clock over the last few weeks, and really since Kaepernick came on a year, now a year and a half ago. If he's in a situation where he can get a little flustered, it's going to be tough. It's going to be really tough, and that's kind of something I'll be paying attention to, and hopefully something they can overcome.
Yeah, it's going to be a great game either way. I think I don't anticipate that this is going to be a boring game in any way. I think it's got a little bit of everything. If you like defense, if you like offense, I think we'll see a little bit of everything on the show.
Yeah, I'm really excited about it. Obviously, we each think our own team can win. Do you want to put a score prediction, or I mean, you don't have to if you don't want to.
Look, I'll put it out there. Look, I'll be 100% honest. It's a matter of whether I go with my head or if I go with my heart. I think there's a lot of the logical part of my brain is telling me all the reasons why I think the San Francisco 49ers are going to win. But I got to go with my heart in these situations. If there's ever a time, just go with your gut feeling. It's these games. So I'm gonna obviously pick the Carolina Panthers. I think it's gonna be a higher scoring game than the last time these two met. So let's go with just pick it out of the air. I'll say 21-17 Panthers.
Okay, that certainly works. I am going to go with similar to last week. I'm going to go 24-20 49ers. 49ers. This will be the 49ers. Let's see, 1, 2, 3. This will be the 49ers' 7th playoff game under Jim Harbaugh, and in the previous 6, 5 of them were decided by 4 points or fewer. The only one that was not decided by 4 points or fewer was their win over the Packers last year. But the remaining games all came down to either the last drive, second last drive, there was a big stop, something like that. So I hope Panthers fans are ready because more than likely, whether they win or lose, it's going to come down to I think it's going to come down to the wire.
Yeah, no, and hey, we like it that way. We're well accustomed to it. So here's to a good game and no serious injuries.
Yeah, just as long as one of us wins, right?
Yeah, I think that. Unless you're asking Donovan McNabb, I'm pretty sure one of us has to win.
Exactly. So we'll see. Obviously, Sunday afternoon? It's 1:05 start.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, a nice bright and early 10:05 Pacific start. I know when I lived out in San Francisco, it usually basically involved me rolling over, turning on the TV, and just staying in bed to watch the game. But out here on the East Coast, get up, get ready, and hopefully enjoy it.
Sounds good.
All right. Well, thanks to Cat Scratch Reader for all the good stuff this week. It's been fun, and hopefully our, depending on who you're asking, team wins. So we'll see. But enjoy the game.
You too.